Hey guys! So this is episode 4 of Let's Talk About Motherhood, and we have the lovely Chanelle with us today.
Hi!
And today we're kind of going to talk a little bit about education system, childcare, and just like some of the struggles that children go through those sort of like processes.
Yeah, like the early years of education, because that's kind of what we know.
Yeah, early years basically. And the lovely Chanelle is here, and she's going to talk to us a bit about obviously her kids,
experience,
and she works in a school as well, which is great.
Okay, just tell us a quick brief bit about you and your children. And
So I have 2 boys, 7 and 9, and my 9-year-old is autistic. He was diagnosed at 8 years old.
That's actually crazy.
Yeah.
It took 8 years.
Yeah, I was about to say that seems late.
It's very, they do try to wait as long as possible to diagnose, mainly just to see how they develop. But usually it's around 4 or 5 that they would have given the diagnosis.
That's really interesting though. Let's talk about that though, because I feel like there's not a lot of information out there on how to necessarily spot autism or like how to manage it, what to do, because there's different levels, right? Of autism.
Yes, it's a spectrum. Thankfully, my son is high functioning autistic, so he doesn't need actually that much support, and it's more his social communication that he struggles with,
which could maybe be a reason why it took him 8 to almost diagnose him. Or
in terms of schools and childminders and things like that, it was more a behavioural issue with Noah. He was always the child who didn't really behave, and so it seemed like he was naughty. He was labelled naughty. So
by the system?
By the system.
By yourself ever?
I suppose as a mother, I understood him a bit more, so I knew how to gauge him. So he wouldn't behave the same. But for everybody else, because they don't understand him, they don't really know him, they don't have a relationship with him. Yeah, he was just a naughty child.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hard though as well, isn't it? Because obviously if he needs a little bit more help than other kids to then be labelled as naughty, you're kind of getting the reverse effect, right?
Yeah. And so he was negatively reinforced at school with his daycare, so he would be like, put in the corner and things like that, and where those things were not helpful because he's not being naughty, he just doesn't understand.
And at what point did they not, or what point did they then say, okay, let's get him tested and see if you can have
it? They didn't. It was actually me. Okay. So when he was 2, so usually the health visitor will request to have checkups with you guys, and the health visitor said that he had speech delay. Now I was, at that time, I was like, no, he's fine. He's just a bit slower than usual. I only had Noah at that time, so once I'd had Jacob, I was able to compare that actually, wow, you really did have speech delay, because Jacob was just blabbering away, he could talk for forever. So I was like, oh my goodness, you are actually different.
Yeah.
And then I started to look at, okay, every single year he had a new teacher, from nursery, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. Every single teacher had an issue with him. Every teacher would be like, Noah is just too much, we can't take him on school trips, we can't do anything with him, he's a health risk, he's a hazard. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go to the GP. I thought maybe it's ADHD, maybe he's just a bit too busybody. No.
I feel like ADHD and autism get confused quite a lot, don't they?
Yeah.
Which confuses me a little bit.
Especially with boys.
Yeah,
Especially
but
boys.
Isn't ADHD like a behaviour?
Yeah, so obviously
sort of mental
attention deficit hyperactive disorder. So they can't really sit still, they can't concentrate for too long, and they are very fidgety. But when I did go to the GP was like, no, he does not meet that threshold at all, he can sit still just through this appointment. And I was like, well, okay. But then they were happy to send me off for an assessment based on the fact that it was constant behavioural from school all the time. I'm like, there is something.
Okay, and obviously you said that you were kind of reluctant, maybe just naturally as a parent would be, to kind of think that there was nothing, there. But when you found out that, okay, he has, is it just called high functioning autism, or is there?
Well, it was just ASD.
Yeah. How did you feel?
Well, funny enough, so after he had his assessment and they brought me back in, and they were like, so yes, we agree, he does have autism after he meets the threshold. And I literally burst into tears.
Was it like relief? or sad?
I suppose it was relief. I was also really sad. I think mainly because, you know, I don't know what this means for his life now.
I think that's such an important point to touch on, because I think that I've got a few friends whose children have also been diagnosed, and they cried, and, you know, and I think like it's something to be okay to say that you're like upset about or worried, more just like worried because you don't know what it kind of means for them going forward.
Yeah, you don't. And especially because they focused on it being social communication, him being vulnerable, him not understanding certain cues, and, you know, in terms of building relationships, that is, as a human, like, we are social creatures. Like, for that to be your difficulty, I was like, oh, goodness, what does this mean for you?
Do you think that is he aware that he's autistic?
So I did say to him, you know, they've said that you've got autism, and he was like, well, what's autism? And I was like, well, I suppose it means that you think differently from everybody else. So you see things a bit differently, you do things a bit differently, and that's it, really. And
how did that talk go with him? Was he? I mean, he's 8, right?
Yeah, he was 8 at the time. He did the time. Okay.
Yeah.
He's no different. He's completely fine. No one treats him any differently at home.
Yeah, I mean, and as they should. Yeah, of course. Yeah. And how? So talking about school, then, how did that affect your kind of choices in schools?
So obviously he was already in school. So he was in year 4 at the time. So we're still there. In terms of getting him support now, I suppose the school's more aware of him, so they're able to put a bit more different expectations on him. So they put him in the front of the class. They understand that if Noah's going to have a little meltdown, they need to leave him. They know how to put certain things in place when it comes to trips and prepare him. When it comes to being autistic, some children need to know exactly step by step what's going on, so there's no surprises.
Yeah.
So having him be have a role is really important. So they've got that in place for him. Speech and language, he now has speech and language sessions every week in school.
And are they specialists that come in?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So I was going to say, do the teachers get training?
No. So the Senko will just organise it with the borough.
Who's that?
The Senko of the school.
The Senko, okay, yeah.
What's that, sorry?
The Senko is the Special Educational Needs Coordinator.
Okay.
So that every school will have one, and when if your child is ever diagnosed with anything, that is your go-to person. That's your best friend in school. So anything that you need, you would talk to them about what you want in place for them, and they will try and get that done for you.
And are they great? Do you find them really helpful?
Yeah. I think it helps because I know what I want for him as well, and I really push that. And because I know his strengths and weaknesses, I'm like, well, he needs this, he needs this. I think if you weren't really aware of what they need, it would be a bit difficult, and I'm not sure the school would, go ahead and just do it. Obviously, they've got loads of children, loads of kids that might have a diagnosis. So as a parent, you need to be really, really pushy and just be really like, hello, I'm here.
Okay.
This is what I need for my child.
Do you think does he struggle in school at all, or is he like doing
academically?
Okay?
Noah is amazing,
really
academically, no problem there, and that's where I suppose he'd be considered high functioning. It's literally social communication.
Okay.
If he gets into any difficulties with friends and behavioural, or if the teacher's asking him to do something, he might see it a different way. So it's those kind of things, and it's also the vulnerableness of not understanding what's safe, what's not safe.
Okay, right.
Do you feel like there's enough understanding in the education system for like autism? They've obviously got things in place.
Because it's not really uncommon, is it?
No, it's not uncommon.
It's actually not uncommon.
I don't know what the percentage is, but
I don't know the percentage either.
It's definitely gone up.
I feel like there's a lot of people on the spectrum. Obviously, it's a big spectrum.
It's a spectrum.
And apparently it's a lot easier to spot in boys, which is why females aren't always diagnosed. So there's probably
that's
more.
true.
Okay. But for some reason, I don't know if we have different kind of behavioural traits when it comes to it. I don't know, but girls are just apparently hard to spot.
Yeah.
Maybe because girls are more emotional. I don't know. Like,
I'm not sure. I think they usually just get diagnosed a lot later, so it might be like secondary school. By the time they realise, oh wow, this person is not really meshing. So I suppose they guide it based on how they're growing through the years. Okay. What types of relationships they build. Are they by themselves? Do they like to socialise? What kind of child is your child?
Yeah.
And do you think do you think it's going to affect him in life, or?
My main worry is his relationships, I suppose. Does he have genuine friendships? Does he understand what that is? can he notice if someone's using him or, you know, things like that, just being vulnerable in that sense. Yeah,
you don't want him to get taken advantage of.
Yeah, because he won't understand that actually, you know, if someone was to approach him and say, you know, we're best friends, please do this for me, like, would he understand that means no, like, how could we possibly be best friends? We haven't been friends for that long. So it's those kind of learning that he needs to learn and understand that I'm not sure he ever will.
I remember you said as well that he doesn't understand certain, like, it doesn't fear things as much.
No, he doesn't.
So he's quite fearless in life.
Yeah.
So, okay.
I mean, that definitely has advantages.
When he goes on holidays, is he raring to go? Or?
So holidays, because it's a change, I have to inform him of every step of what we're doing. So we're going to this country, we are going to this airport, we are going to take this route, these are the terminals that I need you to look out for.
Wow.
This is how long the journey's going to be. This is how many days we're going to stay. This is the hotel we're going to stay in. So he has to know everything. And usually what I do, so if we're going on a trip or anything, I'll be like, okay, Noah, tell me, like, when we get to this station, please, so he can stay focused on what he's doing. Otherwise, if he hasn't got a focus, he's a bit of a mess.
So there's quite a lot that you have to do as well. A lot of prep for you, because you mentally have to prepare everything to then be able to prepare him.
Yeah, I think because of the type of parent I am and being really controlling / organised, that has helped.
Controlling.
I would say controlling. It is a control thing, definitely is. But that's helped.
Having a routine isn't it?
Yeah, that's really helped. Otherwise, I think if you were a bit more laid back, I probably would see a different type of Noah. So I suppose based on how he's grown up in my household, because of how I am,
you're a bit more on it.
He's thriving.
Do you ever feel like you don't get as much kind of like mum support? Like, I guess like some other mums don't get it, because obviously we're all out here kind of complaining and saying that we've got a lot on. Do you ever just sit there and feel like you have no idea? Like, honestly, like when we're...
I mean, yeah.
Tell us, because it kind of
definitely.
humbles me. Like, I'm hearing like a fraction of what you have to go through.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was really complaining today about my day with Ray. And obviously, we're all entitled to our complaint, but obviously there's levels to it, isn't there?
Yeah.
So you must feel sometimes like, guys.
Yeah, but I suppose, I don't know, I think I have empathy for everybody, because we're all so different.
Yeah, that's true.
Our children are so different, and the way we manage things is going to be different. We're going to see things so differently. So, yeah, I can say, you guys definitely don't get it, but as a mother, oh my goodness, just being a parent alone,
Of course.
is a lot.
I guess you just adapt to your situation
You adapt to your
because you
situation,
can have any kind of... You have no idea what children are going to be like. Every child will have something about them that's like really difficult or not. Do you know what I mean? So I guess you just adapt.
Yeah, I guess I mean more just for the worries of his future. So not necessarily like dealing with our children day to day. We can all do that, but just having that kind of added worry of like, will he like face these things? You know, with my daughter, for instance, like I'll probably worry about other things. You know.
Yeah.
So
I don't have anybody that I can possibly bounce that off of and say, you know, should I be worried? And I suppose because autism is such a spectrum as well, the person who does have an autistic child might not be anything like my child, and then I can't even compare and say, oh, okay, they might be okay, or they might not be okay. I have no idea. It is literally just every day is a new day.
I think that's kind of a good thing though, you know, because at least you don't have to worry about things. If you spoke to somebody else who's had a child that was, I don't know how to say it, if it's
autistic.
But you said high functioning, so what was
just on, well, I don't know, I suppose just say not on this, I don't know.
But basically somebody that would be more autistic than Noah, and then they sort of came to you and were like filled your head with all of these kind of worries, then you're going to be on edge all the time. Whereas because you don't really know, you're just taking each day as it comes. And I think that's kind of good for Noah as well, because then he doesn't feel different. Do you know what I mean? You're not going to treat him differently. To the point where he feels it. So I think it's kind of good.
What were the kind of signs you noticed? Was it just the speech then?
So speech was delayed. And then really it was just his behaviour in terms of understanding danger and being really vulnerable and not being able to understand social cues as well. So sarcasm and things like that, no.
Okay.
It's not going to happen.
It's so mad to me that they don't recognise those kind of things in schools. Or like in childcare, like back on childcare, like my mum obviously is a childminder, but she actually can recognise if a child is autistic or is showing that they have like signs of autism or learning difficulties or like delays or anything like that. She will always have the conversation with the parents, because obviously sometimes the parents, if it's, again, like you said, when it's your first child, you don't have anything to compare it to, so you don't necessarily know. So my mum has had quite a few conversations with parents to be like, I don't know if you know, but I think maybe it's worth getting it checked out, and it's been diagnosed from there. But so it's kind of weird to me that there's not people with that understanding in schools.
I think there definitely is to extent, because like for instance, my friend's children who were it was first noticed at school.
Okay.
So I think that I definitely think that we're growing, because it actually is way more common than we once thought. I think that we are kind of having.
I think it depends on the school. It depends on what kind of school your child goes to, as well as it can cost the school money to refer to get assessed. So I think they're really a bit more like, we don't really want to push it. If the school doesn't have a lot of money, they're not going to really push for the SEN.
So again, that can play a part in what school you kind of choose to send on. So regarding what year is
Noah's in year 5 is going into year 6.
So I guess year 7's creeping around the corner.
Yes, we are applying for schools now.
Okay, and have you kind of incorporated like schools that you think would kind of best support him?
Yeah, I'm looking at schools where he can be around certain types of individuals now. Only mainly because of the social communication again. So I'm looking at things where, because I know you're not going to be that leader, you are going to be someone who is easily influenced. I need you to be in a really kind of strict, regimented school where education is everything, and it's just one way of kind of thinking, because that's helpful for now. If it's too wide and too broad, that's too much, that's too overwhelming. So where that'd be really helpful for another child who can be flexible on where they're going to go in life. He needs something just straight academia, that's it. So we're actually looking at grammar schools for him. So where it is just about getting the grades, because he's really good at just focusing on that. Just I sit a test, I revise, I sit a test, I revise. Anything a bit wider than that is too much for him.
Okay, that makes sense.
Do you feel like, obviously, because we were just discussing a minute ago, we've got a WhatsApp group, would you feel that, because I know you mentioned as well that obviously everyone's child has a different kind of spectrum, would you benefit from kind of socialising more with mums who mainly have children who have an autistic child, or a child with something else, even just to kind of share the load of the responsibility, or like kind of the worries and stuff? Or
I suppose do you
feel like when you talk about it it's easier, or do you feel like just getting on with it?
I do kind of just get on with it, I suppose. My knowledge really helps. Obviously, as you mentioned, I do work in schools, and I did do an education degree. I focused a lot on special needs in my education as well, and work experience. So thankfully I feel really equipped with
what do you do at school?
So at the moment I work with children that have anything mental health, so I support them with that. So anything from special needs to anxiety, depression, I support the kids with that in a grammar school at the moment. But I've worked in special needs.
So you work in a grammar school?
I work in a grammar school.
So you're kind of already open to
So actually that would be the route you would kind of suggest going down, because you're kind of there.
If to another parent who had a special need child,
maybe with the same kind of social.
I would say, do you know what? Just read up on everything, and honestly, like working in a special needs secondary school, which was around the corner actually. I worked in one. That's really opened my eyes to loads of different special needs and how they can actually function really well, fine, and they're just so normal. And that is so helpful, because then you build that relationship and you realise actually they're normal, it's okay. It's okay to have a special need.
And just the mums out there who, like, I guess are on the other side, because you're also on the inside of the education system, do you think that like it's kind of safe for them to not worry too much? Like, is it have they kind of got it under control? Like,
what schools?
Do you think they're going the right direction in terms of dealing with children with special needs?
I think obviously it is based on the school. Definitely look into that is like a really important question to ask schools. Like, what do they do for kids that have special needs or mental health issues?
And what are the kind of things that would be like,
what do they have in place for children that have that? What do they have in place if a child's having a meltdown? What do you do? So finding out those kind of like behaviour policies and the well-being side of the school is so important if you've got a special need child or just a child in general that you think, I want the well-being of my child to be looked after, which is so important right now specifically. So important.
And was no other inspiration for you to for you to start doing that, or were you already doing that?
Funny enough, going into education was just me being a parent. I was just really trying to just adapt my life to I'm a mum. What kind of job can I do that works with being a mum?
With all that.
That's such an interesting topic, actually.
Because you have some holiday with your kids, but
be here forever. It's so true.
I mean, my mum works in school. Like, my mum's friends work in schools, and when I was growing up, I was like, why?
It's easier. It's like my mum working in childcare because she wanted to get. It's easier for her to look after.
I guess it's a big thing when you become a mum and you think about your career and stuff.
100%.
Yeah. It's one thing I want to say. When I was in school, there was definitely not someone that does your job.
I know, and
that's
me too.
Actually crazy, because that's so important. I think they really should have had that in school.
Yeah, like well-being was not a thing.
No,
you didn't have a mental health back when we were in school.
Yeah. And look,
we were behaviour. It was behaviour
around the world. Yeah, it was seen as bad behaviour.
Yeah.
And look at what's happening now around the world. Like, mental health has become such an issue. In our generation.
Yep.
Spoke about more, and it's just interesting, kind of to see from a mum's perspective, because we talk about how much of a pressure it is to be a mum anyway. So to speak to someone who also has that added pressure, because mental health is such a kind of delicate situation that we're all speaking about at the moment. It's just interesting to speak to you because you're both the growth of it.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I know we didn't really talk much about schools. We actually just sort of geared up to talk about autism, but actually I think that's really an important subject because we need to just. It's another thing that we need to talk about that people don't talk about. Like when we always talk about experiences that mothers have that seem to be like not really discussed openly, I feel like that would be something that isn't openly discussed for whatever reason. Obviously, sometimes some things you don't feel the need to share with people, but at the same time, it is so important to be able to speak about these things because it happens. Do you know what I mean? And it happens to quite a lot of people.
And is there almost a part of you that like doesn't, I don't want to use the word embarrassed because it wouldn't be embarrassed, but doesn't want to tell people? Or was there a point when you felt like that, where you just, even unrightly so, where you're just like, oh, my child's going through something, maybe I don't want to tell everyone?
Or, I think not embarrassed is the right word, but you know when you feel like people might judge you or your child for it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't openly actually say that my son's autistic. I don't. I try so hard to be like, he's normal, he's fine.
But he is though,
and he is.
But that's another thing as well. To me, I feel like the amount of people that are on the spectrum to some degree, saying someone that's autistic is not. They are normal. Like,
of course,
they just think differently. But what is constituted as normal? Do you know what I mean? Everybody thinks differently to an extent. So it's just how. Do you know what I mean? How can you say this isn't normal and this is normal?
Yeah.
Maybe like people that think like us. Maybe we're not normal. Maybe we're thinking wrong.
There is no normal.
Maybe do you know what I mean?
But I just saying
it's hard because I suppose socially as well. Let's say just going to the park, and if he is approached, and there's a mum who says, "Oh hi, how are you?" or "What's your name?" and he will really shy away and he won't give you eye contact, and those are those moments where I have to be like, he's got ASD, so just bear with him. He's not actually being rude. He that was just a lot for him.
And in a way, I think that's unfair that you even have to do that. Like, it would just be so much kind of kinder for everyone to just be way more aware that there's a possibility that a child suffers with some type of learning disability. So you don't have to say it, rather than being like, why is that kid, being a bit rude? Just let everyone be open-minded and say, every child here is unique and could have any type of form of disability, or learning, anything. So I think we just all need to be more mindful, have the conversations, realise it's out there, and we're all kind of just.
I completely agree. I think like the society that we live in today is just so much more open in terms of like media coverage and stuff like that. We're so much more aware of different types of people and different things that go on in the world. So as human beings, we have to allow ourselves to be a lot more open-minded. Do you know what I mean? Because there's differences everywhere, and differences are to be celebrated rather than to be pointed out as like something that's wrong.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, there's literally differences everywhere. So how can it be? How can it be wrong? It's just different. Do you know what I mean? It's just different to you, and different to this person, and different to that person. So I do think that's really important as well.
Yeah.
Thanks, Chanelle, for opening up.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like it's the intro to this kind of topic, because there's so much that we need that can be spoken about.
I mean, it can go on forever.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely think like we need to do. Is autism considered a disability or a special need, or what's the correct term?
Yeah, it's a disability.
It is considered a disability.
Yeah.
So I definitely think that as a mum, anyone having a child, you don't think about those things, do you? But then when you have a kid and then they do have special needs or a disability, like, it's so much more difficult because the information is just not readily available.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you're just thrown in the deep end, aren't you?
Yeah, it definitely doesn't come in your baby pack.
Yeah,
your
exactly.
bouncy pack. It is nowhere there that says.
And you're just not even aware of all the things that
Yeah.
could happen. Like, even just down to behavioural, like we were talking about ADHD, I think that's very, very common. I think I know a lot of people that have had ADHD. I don't really know anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
and that's the point. But it's not uncommon in children. I'm pretty sure my brother had ADHD.
My brother has ADHD.
Yeah.
So, and he got diagnosed at 24. We knew, but it was like he only got diagnosed when he went to uni late, and then was struggling with certain things, and they were like, you need to test, basically. And yeah, he got it, and that's why I said the embarrassing, because he's 24 learning it and was embarrassed to kind of just say it. And now he's fully understands it and stuff, but there was a lot of kind of social things to be able to say, well, that's why I'm like that. But yeah, Chanelle.
Anyway, we don't want to take up your time any longer.
Yeah, it was a really important topic today.
No, it was an important topic, because normally we're like all joking and funny, but actually sometimes we need to talk about important things. So thank you for coming on the show, Chanelle. Sorry, we didn't spend much time looking at the camera today. We've been really involved in this conversation. But we'll get into childcare and education again more maybe on our next podcast.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.